Okay, hey everyone, welcome to an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. It's a really cool review for you guys from the brand Seiko. A little about them: they were founded back in 1881. They are Japanese in origin and now have factories throughout Asia. They cover all market segments from entry level to high end. And in terms of the type of watch, this is a dive watch. Some key common characteristics and design which when you're looking for a diver, of course, you're going to find water resistance, typically paired to a screw down crown. You're going to want something that's tough, legible, with a dive time bezel, and a dive extension is always nice if on bracelet. This is their Prospex model, and I'm going to give you both nomenclatures. The JDM nomenclature is the SBDJ061, and then the international nomenclature will be the SNE595. And it's essentially a versatile and balanced Goldilocks size diver equipped with a versatile solar quartz movement and sapphire crystal. These go for about $525 MSRP depending on the market, but I got this particular one from Sakura watches. So this is the JDM variation, the SBDJ061. You can get it for $348 currently, but definitely check the links down in the description in terms of the fluctuating, current exchange rates. And the sample was kindly sent in by Sakura, so big shout out to them. They even provided a code, yes, ABROS3P25, and you can use that for a 3% discount on any Seiko, Casio, or Citizen watch. So big shout out to them, and this is one you might want to consider. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, now speaking of Goldilocks proportions here guys, 41 millimeters in diameter, 11.6 millimeters thin, and 48.5 millimeters lug to lug. You know, it's going to have that full stainless steel brushed and polished setup there. And this is absolutely a tool watch. Definitely not one of the times where Seiko goes above and beyond. This one is really it is what it is. And at the price point, guys, it's kind of hard to argue with that under 350 USD. Also, you're going to get that flat sapphire crystal. You're going to get a nice unidirectional rotating 120 click bezel that feels like a Seiko bezel, and it aligns like one too, which is to say that it's like if you let it rest on the click, you can see it's about half a click off. The nice thing is there's enough play so you can get it. Then if you over click it and rest it on the click, it's going to be slightly a little more forward than I'd prefer. So what you do is, like most things, you just kind of get it there, you scoot it, and you leave it, and it's about right. So works for me. Again, not ideal, but if you're a Seiko fan, then you've had to deal with stuff like this before. It's not to say that every single one's like this, but they sneak up on you and they find their way into your rotation somehow. Now, you also do get that loomed 12 o'clock pip, and it is also shielded. So you guys can see there's actually a little piece of crystal there at the 12 o'clock loom pip, which I can absolutely appreciate. And it has, you can see actually like a concentric kind of patterning there in that what I assume would be an aluminum insert that's been engraved quite nicely and also coated. Also, you do have a screw down crown, which is of course unsigned because Seiko does not do signed crowns within kind of the basic Prospex range anymore. Now, the movement inside is going to be your Seiko Solar V157, and it has a 10-month power reserve on a full charge and is going to be plus or minus 15 seconds a month in terms of accuracy. You can't see it because it does have a solid case back there, as you guys can see, and it has that nice stamped setup. And then you're also going to get, of course, quite a bit of etching there in terms of adding a little bit more data. Coming to the dial, you're going to get these nice raised indices. This matte blue dial, definitely very reminiscent in terms of the colorway of something like that classic SKX 009, known as the Pepsi. And Seiko recently licensed, some watches, some Seiko 5s, to actually have them be true Pepsi divers, which I think is hilarious. Well, they're not actually divers, but dive style watches. But, you know, I think that's pretty fun. Here, though, you're going to get date at the 3 o'clock. Very nice. As you can see, it's actually just happens to be covered by that minute hand. And then the hands themselves actually do have some additional brushing there as well. And then you have a polished second hand with, of course, that reverse counterweight lollipop there, which is a bit, I'd say, a bit iconic to the brand. You're getting Seiko Lumibright, so you know this is going to glow quite well, even at the lower price point. This is also Divers 200 meters. You can see there it is rated, which means that it is ISO compliant, you know, as an air diver. It also has 20 millimeter lugs that are drilled. Of course, here, all you're going to see is a little bit of smudging and fingerprints there. That's still high polished. And again, this is not a Grand Seiko. This is not a Presage. It's not a King Seiko. This is not a Seiko Luxe Prospex watch. This is just a fun tool watch that really a non-watch person could enjoy, as well as your jaded, hardened enthusiasts that just want something solid that does the job, that isn't too flashy, that they don't feel bad about really beating up when they're out there on the water or out in the field, you know, depending on where you're going to take these watches in terms of hard use. Something like this is going to be absolutely perfect. Now, here are some of the drawbacks. Hollow end links. That's not great in 2025, but I understand in terms of the tiering, this is a lower tier watch, so they don't want it to be too competitive versus some of their upper tier models. This does have this pin and collar construction versus a basic split pin, which is nice, and it does have that female end link, which means that it's going to have a nice drape in terms of the flow. And honestly, in terms of comfort, these types of end links have never hurt anybody. Really, it ends up just being more so, you know, a point of quality. And in this case, it could have been better, but, you know, it's not earth-shattering by any means. I mean, there are people still wearing certain neo-vintage and vintage references with completely hollow, tinny bracelets, and it's fine. So why not this, especially when you consider the price point? This does taper down to about 17.8 millimeters at its stamped push button flip lock style clasp, which does have 4 positions of manual micro adjustment, as well as this little stamp divers extension that everybody seems to not like. I don't mind it because it does stay out of the way, and if I ever needed it for a dive suit, I guess why not have it there? And just once you get the hang of it, which clearly I haven't because I just messed that up, it's gonna go in here, and then this, I want to say, clicks. There you go. So not the tidiest, but you know what, at 20 millimeters on the lug, this is just going to be able to pair with almost infinite pairings. So whether it be a gray NATO, tropic style strap, a sailcloth, I mean, this is going to go with everything. So that's one of the beauties of something like this. And again, if you were a big SKX 009 fan and you've seen everything kind of bloat around that price point for those original watches, and you don't want to wait another 5-10 years for an premium reissue, something like this can definitely scratch the itch in terms of just hitting that Seiko iconography, but in a little bit more of a mainstream silhouette, considering you're getting that 3 o'clock crown. Now, with all that said, let's actually get it on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, as you can see on my 7.5 inch wrist, this wears really, really nicely. You can see, of course, that nice kind of thicker top hat bezel grip with a relatively thin mid case there, and I think it wears really well. Of course, if I get my wrist a bit too close to the lens, look at that. All of a sudden, the watch looks much larger, but if I keep my wrist nice and low, you can see, hey, all of a sudden it looks a lot more centered. So what I'll do is tighten up the frame here so you can still get a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist, and check that out. Very, very nice. I mean, it doesn't have all the Seiko tricks, bells and whistles, but again, at the price point, you don't necessarily need it to. And some of you are streaming at the screen right now saying, whoa, at the price point, you know what you can get from Zila? I know. Yes, guys, check my channel history. I absolutely know you can get more for less, right? But at the end of the day, not everybody wants to be a spec sheet hunter. There are plenty of people who are wearing Omega Speedmaster professionals that don't even hack, that don't have sapphire crystals, wearing Rolexes with hollow end links, hollow links, hollow stamped clasps. So again, it's not all about just bullet points. There's also desirability, and there's something about these brands, especially a brand like Seiko that has that horological significance over so many years, to where you just want to wear a Seiko sometimes. And I find myself doing that, because through the channel, I'm giving a lot of opportunities and risk time to, a lot of really kind of hidden gems within the microbrand space. So when I'm wearing something that's going to be my own personal choice, I tend to go the other direction and go with something a little bit more name brand. And Seiko is one of my favorites. And, so something like this, I understand its place in the market. It's not anybody's grail. It could be somebody's first quote-unquote real watch. And it might be their last experience with Seiko because they might not like it. And that's fine too. Not everybody has to like what I like. But I do try to mix it up and feature things. I featured a very close comparable to this from Citizen that actually kind of kicks its butt. So stay tuned. Leave a comment in the description if you want to see that comparison. I know everybody wants revenge on Seiko and me. After I really was so disappointed and shared my disappointment in the challenge diver from Citizen, the Fujitsu. I was just really not thrilled with that watch, and I wanted to be. So with that said, let's actually get this off the wrist, set up for some loom shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Hey, yeah. Lumabrite. The name. It tells it all, right? But one thing I always like to work in is going to be a bit of a low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it's nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. And you guys can see here, see that dark, really, really deep, almost black dial. There you go. I mean, if that doesn't get you going when you reminisce on the Pepsi Seiko SKX009, then I don't know what will. This just gives you a nice little dose of nostalgia. It doesn't have any extra patty branding or anything like you would find on the Turtle, which I don't mind. I like that too. But there's something about the purity of this. Yes, some people are not going to like the Prospex X, but honestly, it's kind of the coolest, most symmetrical letter that exists in the alphabet. So, I don't know what else it should be sterile. No, I mean, Prospex is literally, in terms of search engine optimization, is like the second most searched word next to Seiko. Prospex is searched more than grand next to Seiko. So let's just put that into perspective, guys. And again, I just feel like sometimes people just regurgitate pet peeves, and, somebody on YouTube said this. It explains why everybody pronounces squale with an Italian accent instead of the fact that it is a Swiss brand. And the Swiss speak French, and the French word for shark is squall. And that has been the name of the brand forever. But again, somebody on YouTube says squale with an accent, and everybody all of a sudden is that guy in the comments section correcting everyone. So, this thing does the job. Absolutely, guys. Check it out. Quite nice, and it's not too expensive. And I know a lot of guys, especially in the San Diego area, that do love a good solar quartz diver for a lot of reasons, for the wearability, for just the grab and go nature. And then not only do you get something that's robust and does everything you need it to do, it also ties in and pulls on your little heartstrings when it comes to the brand iconography. Now, while this isn't, 4 o'clock crown equipped or anything like that, I mean, for me, this has a lot of similar vibes to the old Seiko 5 Sea Urchin, or even some of the newer, like the 38 millimeter solar diver that was recently discontinued. This is like that, but a little refreshed, a little bit, I'd say set to be a little bit more downstream. And again, at the end of the day, I'm okay with that, because you can still get the other one if you want, a smaller one that feels a little bit more premium. But at the end of the day, guys, you know, people don't buy these watches for the bracelets. So, I mean, you can poo-poo on the bracelet all you want, but most people are going to put this on a much nicer strap, ultimately, and that's their prerogative. So for me, guys, closing thoughts on the wrist: excellent full-sized fitment that never feels over or undersized. In terms of model variants, definitely check the site links for options and current availability. In terms of comparable models, if you want something similar but with a mechanical movement, for not much more, you could grab an SBDY131 Mini-Samurai, currently going for about $407 from Sakura. On the Quartz side, for about $40 more, you could get the $385 watch from Citizen, their latest Promaster, the BN0260-54L, which is better built and similarly styled for not a lot more. Although, by comparison, its hands could be seen as too short, whereas these, I think, are a little nicer. But then you have the other trade-offs, which means things like an slightly misaligned bezel and chapter ring, and, you know, a lot more hollow parts than you would preferably, you know, need or want. But again, for those of you that want to buy something like this to throw it on a NATO strap, or a dive, you know, a rubber dive strap, an FKM or something like that, or maybe even a nice shark mesh, like, it doesn't really matter. If anything, you're kind of happy to have a bit of a throwaway bracelet so that you can just leave it on the material that you actually want to wear it in. So for me, guys, bottom line, this is a great wearing modern Seiko diver that offers a ton of value. No, it's not super original, but it's just vanilla enough to be unoffensive while being spec'd just well enough at a low enough price to be uncontroversial. So yeah, I don't think this piece stands out as a leader by any means, but I don't think it's missing much. I think it's kind of is what it is, and there are folks that just want that. Some people just want a solid Seiko diver, and this is exactly that. So with all that said, let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like, and if you're not already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.